Hello, thank you for joining me. Today our yoga class will focus on a traditional practice that I learned with the Himalayan Institute many years ago. It involves about 55 minutes of asana, short guided relaxation. That's followed by a little pranayama, breath of fire, alternate nostril breath, and then a short, maybe 5-minute seated meditation. So take a moment to get comfortable. Draw the flesh out from under the sit bones, reach the sit bones back, tilt the pelvis forward. See if you can get a good foundation. And then on the exhale, release your weight into the sit bones. And on the inhale, keep rooting down, but at the same time begin to lift, expand, and float. As you lift, try not to lift rigidly. Think about like a balloon being filled with air, expanding and lifting, broadening through the shoulders. Close your eyes without squeezing the eyelids shut. Soften the space between the eyelids and the eyeballs, drawing the eyeballs back into the back of your head. Soften the space under the eyes, around the eyes, the jaws, the lips, the tongue, the mouth. And turn your attention to your breath. If you're able to breathe comfortably through the nose, then keeping the mouth shut throughout the practice. At any point, if you feel any strain or stress from doing that, feel free to breathe any way that is comfortable to you. Allow the breath to become slow, fluid, and wave-like. With each exhale, focus on a heavy, relaxing, downward descending energy rooting through the sit bones. With each inhale, focus on floating, lighter, expansive, lifting, rising energy. So that we cultivate a very slight undulation or wave of energy through the body. As you're doing this, begin very delicately to float your head around to the left or to the right. Not trying to stretch anything, just waking up the muscles in the neck. Create delicate sensations and move those around and through the neck and shoulders. As your head is tilted to the left, experiment with the right shoulder, drawing it up and back and down just enough to make it more interesting. Likewise, when the head is tilted to the right, the left shoulder plays a more important role. Take 5 or 10 more breaths. Follow the sensation where it leads you, away from discomfort and into greater comfort and pleasure. Take a breath or two. Coming back to center. And then tracing the shape of an infinity sign with the tip of your nose. And then try to make the movement, not to make a perfect figure 8, but try and adjust the movement where you get a floating quality, a relaxing sensation in the neck and shoulders. Adjusting the speed, and it's kind of a very lazy, fluid movement. Again, don't worry about the movement being perfect. Focus on moving in a way that works. Roll out the shoulders individually and together. Opening into your first twist, leading with the right shoulder. Lift the shoulder, draw the shoulder blade around and down. Cross the left hand over. Lift, expand, rotate, and breathe. Two or three more breaths. Come back to center, switch sides, leading with the left shoulder, lift, roll the shoulder around, draw the shoulder blade in and down as you lift the chest and rotate. Couple more breaths. Coming back to center, circling with the ribs. Reversing. Switching out your legs, whichever leg was in front, cross it behind. Coming into a side stretch, taking the right fingertips to the floor. Float the left arm. Try to draw not the hand, but the shoulder back. Lift forward and up with the chest and collarbones, and take the left shoulder blade back. Flare the ribs, and then if that's not enough to give you a stretch, walk the right hand away a little bit. Create the stretch not by collapsing over, but by lifting and expanding. Two or three more breaths. Keep balancing those two actions, the chest forward and up, the shoulder blade back and down. One more breath. Switch sides. Couple more breaths. Coming back to center, rolling out the shoulders, circling with the ribs, reversing directions, and coming into a second twist. When we're twisting, typically we use gravity or we use the strength of the arms to rotate. And this time I want you to use your core. So we're actually strengthening the rotational muscles, the transverse and internal external obliques, the muscles that help us to rotate. So building a little strength in them. So to do that, as I rotate, I lift and rotate without using my hands. Lifting, rotating. And then when I feel like I'm working, I let the hands help, but don't let the hands take over. Keep that lift and rotation. Rotate enough that you can feel the core working, and then use your hands to get just a little extra rotation so you can open up the fascia. And breathe into that a couple more big breaths. Practicing with a complete back breath. Back to center. Lifting, rotating without your hands. Draw that left shoulder blade around and down, chest forward and up. And then, without letting the hands take over, just letting them assist. 3 or 4 more breaths. breath. Coming back to center. Again, circling and reversing. And rolling out the shoulders. I'm going to sit now with the legs extended in Dandasana, staff pose. Internally rotate the thighs until the feet are vertical. Feet hip width or a little bit closer together. Pull the toes towards you, reach the heels away. Tilt the pelvis forward, reach the sit bones back. Grounding through the sit bones. And then lifting through the sternum, rolling the shoulders back. Draw the shoulder blades together and down, chest forward and up. And then without using the hands more than you need to. The hands are there to support you so you don't collapse, but if you have the strength to lift and continue lifting with the core, use your core and the hands just supplementing. Take a breath or two or three. Breathing deep. One more breath. Coming into a seated forward bend. You can keep the knees straight if you stretch a lot and your hamstrings are warmed up and don't have any injuries and your low back is healthy. You can just come right into your stretch. For most people though, bending your knees a little bit will make this a safer pose. And then as you lean forward, don't let the feet and knees fall apart. Try to keep your knees the same distance apart as you lean forward. Lift, lengthen the spine. And relax into your forward bend. Breathe into this. If it's too easy, walk your heels away from you a little bit. If you start to feel any stretch behind the knees, that's a sign you need to bend the knees more. 3 or 4 more breaths. Back up. Now counter pose. Place your hands on the floor behind you. Walk them back a little bit. Try to keep the elbows closer to each other. Chest forward and up. And then lift the chest. Roll the shoulders back and down. Now if this doesn't give you enough stretch, walk your heels and hips forward. And then repeat. Roll the shoulders back, lift the chest forward and up. Now for a little variety, undulate. Roll a little left, roll right. Do cat-cow with your spine, rounding and arching the back. Roll the shoulders around. And then hold central alignment for 2 or 3 breaths. Breathing into this. One more breath. And then lifting up and coming back into your forward bend. Knees bent if you need to. And coming on to your hands and knees for cat-cow. Knees hip width apart, hands under the shoulders. On the inhale, lift the tailbone, lower the abdomen, open the chest, look up. On the exhale, tuck the tailbone, round low back, mid back, upper back, tuck the chin. Continuing now on your own, working with the rhythm of your own breath. Now opening into a cat twist. Place your left elbow or your left shoulder on the floor beneath you, and then let your right hand rest on the floor, or if your neck feels safe, extend the right arm up towards the ceiling and then reach out to the right, twisting through the spine. If your neck does not feel safe or awkward, place your right hand on the floor in front of you and use the right arm to take the weight off the neck. When you're ready, come back to center and then do another cat-cow to release tension, to restore symmetry. And then repeating on the second side when you're ready. Place either the right elbow on the floor or the right shoulder. Again, let the left hand support weight unless it feels safe to open into the full twist. Try to keep a little bit of weight in the left knee. If it starts to lift off the ground, ease up on the twist. Breathe into this pose, a couple more breaths. Then place your left hand on the floor in front of you and coming back to cat-cow. Couple more repetitions. And then lifting upright for camel, the knees on the floor, hip width. And then full camel, place both hands either on the low back or sacrum, or you can walk your hands down towards your thighs. Take the hips forward, lift the chest up. Keep your chin closer to your chest, the back of the neck long, the chest lifting, the hips reaching forward. If you prefer to reach for the heels or for the thighs, that's fine. Take a breath or two, lifting through the heart. And then countering that with cat-cow. And then tuck the toes, walk the hands in close to the knees, lift your knees off the floor, and walking your hands in towards the feet, standing forward bend. Alternate legs, bend one knee, stretch the opposite leg, and then switch sides. Try to create a pleasant, safe, gentle stretch in one leg and then in the opposite leg. Taking your time to warm up the hamstring muscles. Take a breath or two. When you're ready, roll up, letting the knees buckle, stacking the vertebra. Come to the front of your mat. Tadasana, feet hip width, outer edges parallel, hands in prayer position. Vinyasa Sun Salutation. On an exhale, release the arms, sweep up on the inhale. Release into a forward bend, coming down halfway or further if you prefer. Bend the knees, roll up, float the arms overhead on the inhale, and then coming down, supporting weight with your hands on the thighs or shins on the exhale. Couple more times, rolling up, stretching as you breathe in. And as your back begins to warm up and release, you're welcome just to release into a full forward bend. Two or three more repetitions. With each forward bend, surrendering, relaxing, hanging into the forward bend, and begin to bring a little bit more action into the overhead stretch. Draw the abdomen in, lift the chest up, take the shoulders back and down. At a side stretch, lift the left heel, flare the right ribs, lift the right heel, flare the left ribs, go side to side. reaching through the ribs and the shoulder rather than the hand. Little bit of a back bend, lift the heart. Take a breath or two. Supported forward bend, place your hands on your thighs, straight back, knees bent slightly. If the back releases, walk your hands down to the floor and hang into a forward bend. If your back feels vulnerable, stay at the halfway point with the weight supported with your hands on thighs. Lean into the stretch a little deeper if it feels safe to do so, and then roll back up to standing. Repositioning close to the front of your mat for a 12-step Sun Salutation. Starting with your hands in prayer position. On an exhale, release the arms, sweep overhead, lift the heart, breathe in, swan dive. On the exhale, find the floor with your fingertips even with your big toe. Step the right leg back deep into a lunge, low lunge or high lunge depending on how you feel. Hold your breath for just a moment as you step back into plank, and on the exhalation drop your knees, your chest, your forehead to the floor, and then Cobra. Reach the chest forward, roll the shoulders back, engage the back muscles as you breathe in. Tuck the toes and push back into downward facing dog as you exhale. Stepping the right foot all the way up to the front of your mat, between your fingertips on the inhale, and on the exhale, step the left foot up into a forward bend. Overhead stretch as you breathe in, coming back to prayer. Release on the exhale, sweep up on the inhale, swan dive on the exhale. Fingertips even with the tip of your big toe. This time, stepping back with the left foot, reach far back and either keep the back leg straight and high lunge or rest the knee on the floor. Then, step into plank, and on the exhale, press down. On the inhale, work your way into Cobra. Press the tops of the feet down, reach the chest forward, roll the shoulders back. Downward facing dog. This time we'll be stepping the left foot forward. On an inhale, place the left foot at the front of your mat. On the exhale, step up with the right leg. Lean into a little deeper forward bend. On the inhale, roll up, stretch overhead, breathe in. Back to prayer. 2 more repetitions. Sweep up as you breathe in. Swan dive as you breathe out. Right foot stepping back. Big lunge on the inhale. Left foot stepping back into plank. Pressing down. Pull through to Cobra as you breathe in. Press back into downward facing dog as you breathe out. Stepping through with the right foot all the way up to the front of your mat on the inhale. Standing forward bend on the exhale. Overhead stretch as you breathe in. Back to prayer. Last repetition, and sweep up as you breathe in, swan dive as you breathe out. Stepping back with the left foot, big lunge on the inhale. Hold your breath for a moment in plank. On the exhale, come down to the floor. On the inhale, lift through into Cobra. And then push back into downward facing dog. Left foot stepping through for a lunge. Right foot following into a standing forward bend. Overhead stretch as you breathe in and back to prayer. Stepping your feet wide for Trikonasana, triangle pose. Make sure your hips have a little freedom. Turn the right foot out, left foot in. Shift your hips to the right, tilt the pelvis, lengthen the lower rib cage. Try to keep the right leg engaged, firm, spiraling the right leg if you know how, rooting through the knuckle or the base of the big toe, drawing up and out on the thigh. Left hand can remain on your hip if your shoulder bothers you, or extend if it feels okay. Breathing into this position, smooth, fluid, steady breath. Create more stability by spiraling through both legs, pressing down through both feet and out through both feet to stabilize the core. When you're ready, on an inhale, come up and rotate the feet, turning the left foot out, the right foot in. Draw your hips to the right. Tilt the pelvis. Left hand on the thigh, or if you prefer, work your left hand further down the leg to the shin or the floor. Roll the shoulders back, open the heart. Either leave the right hand on the hip or float the right arm out. Turn your attention to the breath, creating a steadiness in the mind and in the body. Take another breath or two. On an inhale, reach up through the right arm. Turn your feet pigeon-toed. Release into a forward bend. Keeping your legs wide, slightly pigeon-toed. Step the feet a little closer together, but still wider than the hips. Chest expander. Interlace your fingers behind your back. Float your hands off the hips. If you are tight in the shoulders, just lift your hands enough to feel like you're working without straining. If you're more flexible, continue lifting the hands towards the ceiling. And if that's too easy, take your hands over your head towards the far wall or even down towards the floor. Breathe into this with a complete breath. Belly, ribs, chest, shoulders. And when you're finished, relax into a forward bend, letting the arms float down to the ground, stretching the hamstrings. Step your feet closer together, roll back up. Tadasana, with the feet hip-width apart, outer edges parallel. Next, revolving triangle. Turn the right foot out, left foot in, and then rotate your hips to the right, bringing the left hip forward, reaching the right hip back, stretching the back of the right leg. Now with your left hand, come to your thigh, your shin, or the floor. Make sure, though, that you're keeping your back straight and not rounding and collapsing. Then roll the right shoulder back and bring the left shoulder through into revolving triangle. Balance may be an issue in this pose, so push down and away through both feet to help stabilize. And with your eyes, pick a drishti. Find a focal point, something you can look at to hold your balance. When you're finished, come up, switch sides. Turning the left foot out, the right foot in. Rotate your hips to the left. Reach the left hip back as you bring the right hip forward until you feel a stretch in the back of the left leg. Again, the right hand comes to the thigh, the shin, or the floor. Roll the left shoulder back, opening into a twist. The right hand supporting a little bit of your weight on the leg. If you feel any stretching in the back of the knee on the left leg, keep the knee bent slightly. And if it feels better to straighten the leg, that's fine, just don't lock the knee. Breathing steady and smooth. And when you're ready, come up, release back into your forward bend. Take a breath or two. Coming back up to Tadasana. Be working next with balance pose. Be doing tree pose, but feel free to substitute any favorite balance pose here. For those of you doing tree pose, feet hip width or slightly narrower. Spread the toes on both feet and then shift your weight side to side. See if you can lift the arches of the feet as you shift your weight back and forth. And then shift your weight into the left leg and lift the right heel. If you feel steady enough, you can float the right foot off the ground, place it against the calf, or bring the heel up to the groin. Float the arms overhead, or take them out to the side for more stability. Lift the pelvic floor, firm the abdomen. Take the chest forward and up, the shoulders back and down. The left thigh pushes into the right foot. See if you can relax into this position using your exhale to soften any rigidity. Switching sides when you're ready. Spread the toes on the right foot, lift the arch. Shift your weight back and forth and then take the weight to the right, lift the left heel. Balance with your big toe on the floor, and if you feel stable, float the foot up to the calf or bring the heel up to the groin. Opening the groin by taking the left leg back and the left hip forward. Lift the heart, sink the shoulder blades, hollow the inner armpits. Once again, breathing into this position, using the exhalation to soften, become more fluid in your balance. Take a breath or two, finishing with a forward bend. Feet hip width, outer edges parallel. Lift the tailbone, sink the belly, rotate the pelvis to get more stretch. If it feels good, lean in a little deeper. Take a couple more breaths. We'll be coming down to the floor now. And this time we'll be holding Cobra. Point your toes to the back wall. Press the tops of your feet into the floor until the knees start to lift. Hands are positioned well behind the shoulders, wrist under the elbow. Shrug the shoulders, lift the shoulders, draw the shoulder blades together and down the back as you reach the chest forward. Take your time and come up just maybe 1/3 of the way in terms of effort, and then adjust with your shoulders, your chest, your legs. Try to work around any kinks, any pinching, Any compressions, anything doesn't feel quite right, play with it a little bit. And if everything starts to come together, then work a little bit harder, lifting a little more. Take a breath or two. And then, when you're ready, downward facing dog. We'll be holding downward dog. And first, bring your attention to the legs. Bend one knee, reach the opposite heel towards the floor, and at the same time lift the arch, lift the shin, lift the kneecap. Switch sides. Bend that knee and straighten the opposite leg. Reach through the heel while lifting the arch, the shin, the kneecap. Now do both legs at the same time. Reaching through the heels, lifting the arches, quadriceps engaged. And as you continue to do that, point your tailbone to the ceiling, pull your chest through towards your feet. Lengthen the spine, reach away with the sit bones. The shoulder blades float away from the feet, the chest draws through towards the feet. When you're ready to rest, pigeon pose, bringing the right leg forward, and take your right heel out to the side. Slide the left leg back. And we're looking for a safe, gentle, pleasant stretch in the right hip without any strain in the knee. If you need to reposition, don't move the right foot. Instead, move the rest of your body, especially the left leg and your arms and your chest and your hips, until you find a position where the right knee is neutral, no strain. You're getting a healthy, pleasant stretch in the right hip that feels pleasant and you can relax into. Over time, if the muscles start to relax, work your way deeper in the pose by repositioning the left leg, taking it back further and walking it to the right. On the other hand, if your body's beginning to resist the stretch, you're in too deep, move the left leg to the left and forward to ease up. Occasionally adjusting, easing up or leaning in deeper, shifting the hips a little left or right. When you're ready, downward facing dog. Step the right leg back, take a breath or two, working downward dog. Then bring the left leg forward, slide the right leg back. Coming into pigeon on the second side. Start with a gentle stretch. Take a breath or two. Depending on how your body is reacting, ease up on the stretch or perhaps work your way a little deeper. Occasionally adjusting. Repositioning if you need to. When you are finished, come up to a seated position, knees bent, feet on the floor. Then holding on to the back of your thighs, roll back one vertebra at a time. Use your hands to lengthen the back of your neck and set the neck on the floor and then the head. knees are bent, the heels drawn in close to the hips. We're working next with bridge. If you prefer to do any other inversion, shoulder stand, plow, headstand, handstand, or a back roll, just use this time on your own. For those of you doing bridge, lift your hips a few inches, and then with your legs push your body out away from you, so the shoulder blades remain where they are, but the body slides over the top of the shoulder blades. You can either grab your ankles or interlace your fingers beneath you, or you can use your hands to support the thighs or the sacrum. Try to walk the elbows in close. Those of you that have any contraindications for inversions, just lift your hips a few inches and stay. Those of you that want to work harder, lift your heels, come up onto your tiptoes, lift the hips higher, and then without losing that height, find the floor with the heels. Opening the chest. Keep the back of the neck long. Avoid any temptation to turn your head to the side. Always look straight up in this pose. Complete breath. Breathe into the belly, the ribs, the chest, the back, and the shoulders. Working the breath strongly. When you're ready to come down, try to lower one vertebra at a time, keeping the hips higher, and see if you can find the floor with the kidneys before the hips touch the floor. Now, before the hips quite touch the ground, while they're still a few inches up off the ground, lift one leg, bring the knee towards your chest, grab it with your hands, pull the knee into your chest, and lower the small of your back to the floor. That will maximize any extension, minimize any compression in the low back. Rock side to side. And then happy baby pose. If you're able to, grab your heels. If that's difficult, you can grab your shins or your feet. You can take your knees a little wider than the rib cage and then rock side to side, forward to backward gently. Now coming up to Dandasana, staff pose, sitting up, legs extended, and then walk your hands back. And the easier, safer version is with your hands 10 or 12 inches behind your hips. Take your chest forward and up, and then lower not the back of your head, but the throat back. Try to keep your chin long, and then if that's okay, you can lower the head back further. The more advanced version is to sit on your fingertips, take your elbows to the floor, and then lift the heart, and again lower the throat back, lengthen the back of the neck, and then let the head drop back a little further if it feels okay. This is a counter pose, reestablishing the cervical neck after bridge, shoulder stand, or plow. When you're ready, coming down to the floor, and then either bring both knees in with the feet on the ground for the simplest twist, or bring both knees to your chest for a mid-level twist, or hug the right knee into your chest and straighten the left leg out and back to the floor for a deeper twist. Whichever leg version you choose, roll your hips to the left. With your left hand, anchor the top knee, and then turn your upper body back to the right. Find a position where the outstretched arm is floating off the ground, The knee is on the ground, the right arm is floating, and then if that causes discomfort, reposition your hand. Move the arm higher or lower, or put your hand on the back of your head, or even place your right hand over your heart. In this position, practice with a complete breath. The back, the belly, the ribs, the chest, the shoulders. And with each exhale, relaxing. And if it feels good, leaning in to the twist. When you're ready, first release the twist with your upper body and then come back to center. And again, either both feet on the floor with the knees bent, or bring both knees to your chest for a moderate twist, or continue to hug the left knee into your chest, straighten the right leg away into the floor. Roll your whole body to the right until the knee drops to the floor. Hold it down with the right hand and then turn your upper body back to the left. Position the left arm where you can relax without any discomfort in the shoulder or the arm. And then breathing deep with a complete back breath. As you breathe in, feel the left shoulder rise a little bit at the end of the inhale. As you breathe out, surrendering, relaxing, letting the arm get heavier and heavier. Five or six or seven more slow, deep, complete breaths. When you're finished, first bring the left arm up, release the upper body, and then hug your knees into your chest. Rock side to side. Taking a few moments once again to allow the low back to decompress. We'll be closing with Shavasana. You can either keep your knees bent, or if it feels okay, straighten the legs away, laying flat on your back. With your hands, lift the head, pull the head away from the shoulders, lengthen the back of the neck, lower the neck before the head to the floor. Draw the shoulder blades together and down the back, the chest open. Notice, and if you feel a little bit of tightness in your low back, bend the knees again. Otherwise, keep the legs straight, hip width apart. First, bring your attention to your breath, breathing diaphragmatically. You can use any combination of breathing into the abdomen, the sides, and the back, as long as the chest remains completely passive. At the very minimum, the belly should rise as you breathe in, fall as you breathe out. If you're familiar with a back breath, breathing into the back and then the abdomen, that's even better. As you practice this, pay attention to the rhythm of your breathing. Slower, but not so slow that it requires effort to maintain. We want to use the breath to help us relax, and if you slow the breath down too much, it prevents relaxation. Notice the shape of the breath, fluid, wave-like, softening any edges, until the breath flows. Notice any effort to maintain the breath and let the effort gradually fall away until it's simply awareness controlling the breath rather than physical effort. Continue to pay attention to your breathing while you also begin relaxing the face, the neck, the shoulders, the arms, the hands and the fingers. On an exhale, let the arms fall away, remote, distant, and heavy. Relaxing the feet, the ankles, the calves, the knees, the thighs. Loosening hips, relaxing the buttocks. Take a deeper breath, let the arms and the legs fall away. Imagine the legs distant and remote and heavy. Relaxing the low back, the belly, the kidneys, the ribs, the chest, the shoulders. The back of your neck, soften your throat. The tip of the tongue, the belly of the tongue, the root of the tongue, softening all the way down the throat. All the way down through the pericardium, the diaphragm, down to the belly. And the eyeballs, softening, melting into the back of your head. The eyelids float lightly above the eyes. Relaxing the eyebrows, the forehead, the temples soft and hollow. Relaxing the scalp and the crown. Let the body fall away, distant, remote, and heavy. And let your attention rest on the breath, rising and falling, fluid and wave-like. And now breathing a little deeper. Breathe into the back of the belly, but continue to breathe into the ribs, the chest, and the shoulders. Spread your fingers, spread your toes. Feel the air move between the fingers and toes. Slowly, lazily, raise your arms overhead. Stretching, pendiculating, yawning. Stretch through the left side, the right side, and then stretch diagonally from the left shoulder to the right hip, and then from the right shoulder to the left hip. And then, one more time, yawning. And then when you're ready, draw your knees into your chest. Hug the knees in for a moment, roll to the side. And then pushing up and finding a comfortable seated position. So take a moment to get comfortable. We'll be sitting for about 10 minutes. So make sure that you have a good seated base. If you need some support, use a folded blanket under the hips or a block, something to get a little bit of elevation so that you can sit up nice and tall. Or you can sit in a chair, anything that allows you to sit with your spine elongated, the chest open, as opposed to collapsing. So we'll be finishing with breath of fire, alternate nostril breath, and then moving into about a 5-minute meditation. Make sure you have a handkerchief handy if you need it after breath of fire. If you aren't sure how to practice breath of fire or alternate nostril breathing, you can just check out the pranayama video series that I have on my website at yogateacher.com, and just click on video, and that'll have instructions on how to practice these breathing patterns. Starting with breath of fire, if you get lightheaded, any unpleasant symptoms, nausea, or anything strange, stop and resume normal diaphragmatic breathing and move right into meditation when you're ready. And if you can do this comfortably, just follow with me. Continue on your own. Forced exhale, passive inhale, very small amount of air moving in and out, kind of like a snort. About 2 beats per second. "30 seconds. Five or six more. Then, when you're ready, a nice, deep, complete breath. And see if you notice if you're able to breathe a little bit more freely. Breath of fire helps to release blocks, and it helps to also energize us after Shavasana. It can leave us feeling a little ungrounded though. So alternate nostril breath. Any mudra is fine if you aren't sure. 2 fingers on the third eye, thumb on one side, 2 fingers on the other. Lightly lock the nostril that is more passive and open the nostril that is more free right now. And start on that side breathing in. When you finish inhaling, close both sides and then open the opposite side, exhale. Don't change anything. Breathe in through the second side. At the top, close and open the opposite side, exhale. All you have to remember is you switch fingers at the top of the inhale only. As you continue, allow the breath to be slow, smooth, fluid. With a minimum amount of effort, maintain posture, floating tall and expansive. Remember the workshop on bandhas, Mula Bandha, Uddiyana Bandha, Jalahandra. Use those delicately just to improve the quality of your posture. 10 or 15 more breaths. With each repetition, use less pressure with the fingers. So that you aren't squeezing the nose shut, you're just lightly touching the side of one nostril as you breathe in, touching the side of the opposite as you exhale. See if that is enough to deflect or shift some of the airflow from one side to the other. As you continue, don't even press on the nostril, just touch lightly one side to bring your attention to that side and then the opposite. As you continue, place your attention on the side you aren't touching. And imagine that you can breathe in through that nostril and exhale through the nostril that is not being touched. Continue practicing this, but without using your hands at all. Bring both hands back to your thighs or your knees. Place your attention in one nostril as you breathe in. Place your attention in the opposite nostril as you breathe out. Notice the quality of the inhale, the air. Maybe a little cooler, maybe a little drier. And notice the exhale, a little moist, a little warmer. As you're doing this, relax the space behind the eyeballs, the root of the tongue. Maintain your posture with less and less effort, floating. Any form of meditation is fine. If you aren't sure, continue alternate nostril breath as a meditation. Placing your attention in one nostril on the inhale, on the opposite nostril on the exhale. I'd like to thank you for joining me. This practice is a little bit modified from a classical Himalayan style, but the emphasis is the same. A little bit of asana, guided relaxation, and then breath of fire to wake up, to get energy moving, alternate nostril breath to calm that energy, to center, and then all of that in service to meditation. Okay? For those of you that like to meditate, this is a wonderful way to enter into your meditation. And that was a very short meditation, but for those of you that enjoy meditating, you can stretch that out to half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour, sitting, whatever you feel comfortable with. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Namaste.